Jacob, who?
Worst vacation ever. I'm Adam Maness.
And I'm Peter Martin.
And you're listening to the You'll Hear It podcast.
Daily jazz advice. We don't do retakes. We don't do outtakes. We don't do...
Dude, you did about 3 takes.
Oh, yeah, we do 3 takes, though. That's true. Hey, don't tell them that. And that's what we got to? That's pretty bad.
That is pretty bad.
But you should have heard take 1 and take... Yeah, if you didn't like take 3, wait till you hear take 1 or take 2.
Today's episode is sponsored by Open Studio. Go to openstudiojazz.com. Check out our new practice journal, 52-week practice journal. A lot of musicians hit me up for these. Got to go pay for it.
Studio,
friends.
Open Studio.
Wow. With a practice journal, you too could sound better than that. What are we talking about today?
Step 1. Work on singing. Today we're talking about 2 pianos. How to play 2 pianos, not 2 key stations.
Oh my gosh. That's what we should have done, dude, is 2...
No, you should have been on this, and I should have been on the grand, the Steinway grand. That would have been nice. No, so we talked a little bit last week. We did a little bit of a pre-mortem.
Yep.
We might say we're going to do a little bit of a post-mortem on our gigs that we did. This is difficult because when we talked about them before the show, the episodes came on after, and now we're talking about them. The gigs have already happened, and we're like retrospecting.
Well, we thought now we would just
blown.
We would break down, kind of our strategy for doing 2 pianos, and this could work too with like piano keyboard or whatever. Yeah, which is not something we really covered last week. Because
it was 2 grand pianos. They were put together in the traditional kind of frame-to-frame situation.
There's a lot of soundboard on this.
A lot of soundboard, and the tops were off. That was one kind of strategy that I think worked out good. I think it sounded good. The feedback was great. I had a blast, man.
It was really fun.
I had a lot of fun, man. You were killing it. I think we played some really fun stuff, and I think we were in agreement. At least we told each other afterwards we wanted to do more of them.
Man, I would love to do more. I felt like it was really, it went over really, really well, which was... a nice surprise, not a surprise, but it was a nice feeling, right?
Well, I think it's a surprise in that, and like you were telling me, I didn't realize, I think until we did 3 shows. That was nice. Yep. 3 separate performances, 3 separate audiences over 2 days. But you were telling me that you basically have never done that with 2 pianos.
And not a full-on concert like that. I mean, I'd done 2 pianos on the same stage, but with a band.
Right. I mean, we've done that before.
We've done that before, Piano Rhodes or whatever. Right. I've done Piano B3, but never just 2 pianos and that's it. Yeah. As a concert. I mean, practice rooms or whatever, that's one thing. But
when you do it as a concert, it's so unique. I mean, any duo, I think, is a unique opportunity. As pianists... we've done those a lot, with a bass player, with the singer.
All the time.
But even so, like that's a unique thing. But when you take 2 of the same instrument, I mean, the closest thing, and because I've done it recently, it's kind of on my mind, is the piano and guitar. Right. And like that's very close in some ways to piano, because you have, but it's still different. But you have 2 chordal instruments that have a very similar range, or in common. Obviously, the piano is much wider range. But when you get the 2 pianos, you have that, but then you have the exact same sound. I mean, you have 2 pianists, so the possibilities for it being different are wonderful, because then you can kind of focus on that. But it takes a minute to get into that, right? Because we're used to playing as the only pianist producing that piano sound in a band situation. So you think, I'm used to doing solo piano. I've done that a lot. That's going to be similar to this, but it's totally different.
It is totally different. And I think that was one of the big surprises for me, and one of the big things I learned from this week was I was really worried about it's going to be too busy, or like, don't step on Peter's toes or try to whatever. But I was really surprised at how easy it was to blend together, and how actually, like, by that last show that we did, I was able to and I heard you doing the same thing. It was like, if you were somewhere doing something, I could actually get in there with you in the same range,
Right.
and do like things that complemented that. And it's actually a really cool sound that you would never hear in any other situation.
Right.
As opposed to just like, okay, if he's here, I got to be out here, which
Right.
we did do most of the time.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised at how it's like you can actually blend really well in the same range. It never felt like, if it felt like it got really thick, it felt like it was appropriate. It got there on purpose. You know what I mean? And there were times where one of us would step back, and obviously like during the solos or whatever, one of us would step back and kind of lay it down or whatever, or even sometimes step out completely, which was your suggestion at one of our sound checks, which I think was a really good suggestion, was like, hey, we both don't have to play all the time. We can, that's a sound we can utilize, and it's more powerful too when we play together. And that's those kind of like on the spot arranging things really work. But I was really having fun with, because we played two of the same kind of piano, the same brand of piano. And so even though they were very different pianos, but like, if you were to do something up high, I could go into that same range and kind of complement what you were doing. And it's actually a really awesome sound.
Yeah, exactly. And I think those times you kind of hit on the two main areas that become apparent once you do this. I'm not sure so much to the listener, because it's more about the overall effect to the listener. I do know these things. It's harder depending on the positioning and where people are sitting. It's hard to even tell who's playing what, which I think is fine. Yeah, it shouldn't be like, because their frame of reference, just like ours, is different than a duo like a guitar and a piano, where you can just hear what's obviously, even if you're in the same range, what a guitar sounds like, what a piano. But as the players, we know what we're playing at any time, so we know exactly what's not being played. So it really becomes, and I think out of necessity, but I think it's a good thing and works, is when you realize that it's about the entire output. Totally. And so it's not so much like four hands on two pianos or whatever. No, it's just like about what piano plus. It shouldn't be doubled. Like everything shouldn't be doubled. Yeah. And everything shouldn't be twice as thick. Right. Because what the music calls for at any time is exactly the same as if there was one piano or if there was one flute player or whatever the situation was. What's called for in the music is what's going to unfold with the music. Totally. So yes, you have the possibility, instead of 88 keys, you could look at that as double. I guess that would be 176 or something. Is it something like that? No, is that right? Yeah.
166 maybe?
66? I don't think so.
No,
right? What are we doing here? 80? Yeah, 176. I
carry
think
the 7.
Carry it.
Divided by 2. Yeah, 176.
176. So, okay.
Ooh, that took way too long.
Not me. No, but the idea is like, not that we have 176, because actually we still just have 88. Right. Because they're the same ones. But we have, and that was my only suggestion, because I remembered, because I've done it a few times, is that the tendency we have to say, we always have to be taking advantage of four hands. No, flip that around. Like, the beauty of it is that now we can make music in a different way, but still have the completion, which we know solo piano is already complete. So it's not like when you do a duo with a saxophone player, there's a certain amount of support in either in a very traditional way with like a root or bass line and kind of chords above or below or whatever, but there's just a certain amount of support in that it's always going to be a single line instrument, you know. Solo piano, we know, can be a complete thing. Now, I'm not saying Sonny Rollins playing solo saxophone or Joshua Redman or all these people that have done it. Of course, that's a beautiful, complete thing, but it's different. Yeah. It's different. So when we talk about like a piano being a symphony, yeah, it isn't actually a symphony, but it can represent that. So when we get two together, to me, what was really interesting about like kind of how we approached it, and maybe a fun way, if you guys get a chance to do this, is to think about it as like, how do we still get to the solo piano level, but with two pianists at two pianos? Right. Almost like in the classical thing, when I did a little bit of that playing too, was like actual forehand stuff on one piano. Ooh, a little bit awkward, sort of both at the bench together. Yeah. You don't want to be next to a portly person because you might fall off. I guess separate benches would be called for. But I mean,
they have the double bench. They have the forehands bench.
Of course, the doppio.
Yeah, the doppio.
But to me, that's a lot harder than doing, even though like you're restricted into the music of what, I've only done classical stuff there. I mean, it's playing around.
It would be harder on jazz too, yeah.
I think so.
Sure.
Well, there's certain things that are simplified in terms of like, if you're sitting at the bottom, you're going to be walking some bass line or, playing some stuff down there or whatever. Right. So that it just physically gets you. But I think it's a super interesting thing. It's something we don't do enough. We're really excited. We've talked about doing it some more. because the possibilities are like, I mean, it's just such a great instrument. When you get two of them, it's it's like the old, I don't know if you remember the double mint gum commercials
Totally.
from
The
back in the
twins,
day. Yeah.
different twins doing
A little bit
skiing and
sexist
rollerblading.
and a little sexist and not racist, but sexist. Couldn't be used today. I don't think those.
Most
Like
of
double
them.
the pleasure. Come on, wink, wink. We
Yeah,
know where
it's
they're
a
going with
little
that.
wild.
Not cool.
One thing that
No bueno.
I
No
think
bueno.
for me, like as the week went on, I started to get more comfortable with was, and it's because it's something you don't do a lot of, is blending the two instruments.
Yes.
Dynamically and timbre and tone or whatever. I'm used to blending with a horn player, a
Yep.
singer, a drummer, or whatever, but I've never had to blend with another pianist, and it's a different kind of blend,
Right.
because you have to take into factor things like, what chords are you playing?
Yeah.
How are you voicing the chords? Not like chord voicings, but what are you
Yeah, yeah.
bringing out?
Yep.
What's your expression level of like legato, staccato? I mean, like all that stuff is something.
What's
to
my
consider.
sign? Like we had to talk about that. I'm a Leo. You're I can't even remember now.
I'm a Capricorn, man.
Capricorn.
Yeah. But that to me was a really interesting process that, like I said, I was actually just starting to get really into by that last show.
Yep.
That's why we need to do some more, because I was really starting to feel
Yes.
like, oh man, the more you do it, like with anything, you see the possibilities start
Yeah.
to open up. The more you learn, you're like,
Yeah.
oh, there's more questions that need answering now. So
Yeah, and I think that the blending thing is really that's a fertile area to explore as we do it more. Is that it's like the kind of two different ways to look at it. It's really the duality of the blending. On the one hand, it automatically blends because it's a piano.
Sure.
So like you don't have to do anything. But on the other side, it's like you have to do a lot. Like talk about voicing, registers, timbre, harmony. I mean, like all those things, touch, all that affects that in order to give some not necessarily differentiation as into who's playing what, but what is needed. Like, because we have, I mean, yeah, of course we could have just gone into it as like, you play C and above and I'll play C and below, and you play exactly what you normally play as solo piano up there, and I'll play what I normally play here, and we'd have a blend and kind of a solo piano thing. But obviously we don't want to do it like that. So it's like, how do you go in and out of those moments where, as you say, like we're getting out of each other's way. We're playing solo piano. We're playing stuff together in the same range. We're playing things that aren't the same, but we're still challenging a little bit in the same range. And then like using that as part of the dramatic flair of the performance.
Or even just like, you were saying like sometimes the audience can't tell, but like really trying to blend. We were just starting to do that towards the end too, of like,
Yep.
really trying to blend of like, oh, you won't be able to tell. Like,
Yeah.
This could be either one.
And then
of
you
us.
can go in and out of that. It's a fun thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
really
oh,
fun.
now you can tell. Now you can. Now you can tell.
Yeah.
And we did a little bit of, like outside of the piano percussion on the thing. Yeah, that was fun. And that was totally spontaneous. You went inside a little bit.
Totally.
And so like it's always a great time to explore that. But to me, it's always fun when that organically happens. And because of the exposure that we have now, yes, we have that exposure when we're solo piano, no bass, no drums, nothing to get in the way. Like I don't do a whole lot of that just because like it can't really be heard unless it's solo. You know?
Totally.
But with the two piano,
It was nice.
like and then you've got like some some accompaniment to it still from somebody that understands what's happening because it's the same instrument.
Totally, yeah.
So I think we were able to take advantage and leverage that technology, as we say a
super
little
fun,
bit.
bro.
That's how we do it.
It's a
Oh,
great
see,
week.
you are a toucher. Look at you. Go ahead, man.
That's good.
Pounder. So yeah, we'll definitely do it again, and that would be something. Now is there a page on here for two pianos practicing? No, I don't know if that's
No,
it.
there's not.
But as a pianist, you're gonna be able to look. To me, this makes this book worth. We're talking about. What are we talking about? The practice
The
journal.
Pujo.
The
practice
Pujo.
journal. Pujo is a
Now you've
horrible
accepted
name
what
for
it's
anything,
called.
dude.
Yeah, rhymes with Cujo. Open studio, but beautiful artwork.
Like you say, it rhymes with Cujo. It's based off of Bujo, bullet journal.
But it does rhyme with Cujo.
But
And
it also rhymes with Bujo.
Well, so that's all good. But look, you've got the week of, but I love the goals for the week. That in itself is just beautiful. You've got some notes to write. I think this lays things out. It gives you some self-accountability. Who doesn't need that?
I definitely need it.
Yeah, we all need it. So check that out, Open Studios, along with all of our new courses. Lead Sheet Basics, Volume 1 of Jazz Piano Basics. Lead Sheet Breakdown, I'm sorry. Jazz Piano Basics. Check that out. Very affordably priced. I tried to raise the price. Nobody let me do it. I'm going to sneak into the back end of the website and do that very shortly, though. So pick that up when you get a chance by our very own Adam Maness. And until tomorrow.
You'll hear it.